Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Weep here, back with part 4 for What If Subaru Was a Shadow Dragon Slayer. You guys have been waiting for this for a while now, and it's been like 9 days, and I'm here to follow through. I promise I'll be getting you guys a part next week, and we're here, so let's get going to part 4, where we'll be finishing off the mansion arc. For those of you who are not caught up with this series, make sure to go to the top upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll find a playlist I have kindly linked for you, which is the complete series so far of Shadow Dragon Subaru. So, if you want to go and catch up, there's only 3 parts right now, just go watch that, quickly catch up, and we can continue on our way. Now, entering into part 4, the final run of the mansion arc, where Subaru has decided that he's going to save everyone. So, let's get started. Subaru would cover his hands in shadows as he punches himself in the chest, ripping through his own body. As Subaru would fall to the ground, slumping over and dying, the shadows of this witch that he has no idea who could be surrounding him as he is seemingly teleported once again back through time. This being the second ever time that Subaru has died in the world of ReZero. Subaru would wake up in bed a week ago, just like he had the first time when Beatrice had killed him. Subaru this time having his smell of the witch slightly increase, this throwing off the 2 twin demon sisters who had been there to watch him. A difference this time is that Subaru himself can actually smell this change. Subaru, being a dragon slayer having incredibly heightened senses of smell, would begin to actually smell this scent of the witch that Ram and Rem could also smell. It was disgusting, like a sickly sweet scent. The kind of smell that makes you gag and cover your face. Subaru would pull himself out of bed, greeting the 2 in the morning, acting incredibly calm, as Subaru is already beginning to calculate in his head how he's going to save them, thinking about his first run, where he had inadvertently collected the suspicion of Ram, who had then killed him by trying to poison him, and when that failed, Beatrice having finished him off. Subaru would immediately decide that working with Beatrice again and befriending her was a good choice to do, since she hasn't met him yet. Subaru would still be not quite used to the whole time travel thing, so it'd be a bit rough when he brings up stuff from his previous conversations that he obviously should not know about. So Subaru would try to keep those type of conversations on the down low. Anyway, per cue, Subaru would ask the 2 sisters where he was, saying he just remembered he had come to this place with Lady Emillia last night, and was now here. This is when Emillia would enter the room just like the last run, who had come to clear up any misunderstandings, explaining to Subaru that this is where her benefactor lives, and telling Subaru that, as an offer, they'll probably be offering Subaru some sort of reward for helping find her insignia. But of course, Subaru would know this. Subaru would act surprised, thanking Emillia as he'd go through the motions once again, meeting with Roswaal and asking to be a butler at the mansion, explaining to Roswaal that he doesn't really have anywhere to go, since he had been traveling and was just chilling on the road, really. And he then explains to Roswaal that it'd be nice to just have somewhere to stay, to be honest. And he's also pretty strong, so if he needs a bodyguard for Emillia here, I've got you covered, Subaru would say, grabbing his left bicep with his right hand as he flexes his muscles. Ram would roll her eyes as Rem would just watch silently. It's from here that after this formalities were completed, Subaru would immediately make his way over to Beatrice, introducing himself to her and saying that he's the new butler here and he knows he shouldn't be entering here, but he was curious about the great library and was wondering what she does here. Beatrice would be continuously annoyed, pushing him out of the library, and Subaru finding it over and over again, eventually finding Beatrice and finally gaining some trust from her, seeing as how annoying he was. Subaru would smile, asking Beatrice just one teensy tiny favor, as he asked Beatrice if she knows about any magic that could kill someone over a long period of time, like a delayed spell or something. Beatrice would ask Subaru who he's trying to kill, as Subaru then explained it's not for him. He was just wondering since a good friend of his had died that way, and he was curious if she had any idea on how that could have happened. Beatrice would huff as she decides she'll explain about shamans quickly and then get him out of here for good, just to get rid of him, as she then pulls out one of the books and explaining to Subaru how shamans' powers work, saying that they would require some sort of physical touch with a person in order to inlay the curse upon them. It's a curse that afflicts one's body until they die. A curse, huh? Subaru would say. Can you, like, see them or something? Subaru would ask, trying to figure out if there's any way he can dictate if someone is being cursed. This would be when Beatrice says that she herself could probably see a curse, but she doesn't explain why to Subaru. But for us, it's because she's a great spirit, so she can see all that stuff. Subaru would try and think of another way as he decides he'll try using his nose, thinking back to last week before Rem had died, and remembering when she could have gotten that curse. Realizing that the only one who could have been a shaman and would have tried to kill Rem would have been someone in the village, someone in Arlem Village. The place inside of Roswaal's domain that him and Rem had actually both gone down to get groceries the other day. Subaru would drop his closed fist into his open palm, saying, "That's it!" as he realizes when Rem had to have been cursed, thinking of how her scent had changed after that point. After he had smelled something different, but he had just thought that his nose was being overreactive or something. Subaru would smile going in for the spin around on Bayako before she would blast him out of the library saying, "No, don't touch her," as she then puts the library somewhere he would never find it. Subaru would sigh, saying I guess that's all he could get, as he then decides to go and run and help Ram and Rem before they come and looking for him like they did in the last timeline. Subaru would run to the kitchen and immediately start working on potatoes and skinning them, as well as some other of the kitchen tasks, obviously being much better now after doing it for 2 or 3 weeks at this point, from his previous experience. Subaru would then go and clean Roswaal's bath chambers as well. Subaru would be waiting and listening for the opportunity when Rem is going down to the village to get groceries, offering to take Ram's place in this timeline instead, saying that he's pretty strong and he can help carry all the groceries. Ram, of course, still being lazy like usual, would take this easy out, and she decided that she's earned a day off, telling Barusu not to screw it up. Subaru would nod, saying it's easy, he's got this, as he'd head out with Rem going down to the village. Just like the original, this Subaru would be incredibly good with kids, as kids would be impressed with Subaru doing party tricks with his shadow magic. For a reference, think of Aqua from Konosuba. Anyway, Subaru and Ram would get their groceries with Subaru watching to see who touches Rem. While Subaru was keeping his eye out for Rem, he'd be playing with the kids, and eventually a little girl would come up with a dog, saying that she found this lost stray puppy earlier. And as the dog approaches Subaru going to pet it, the dog would bite him. Huh, that's weird, Subaru would say. Animals had always loved Subaru, especially after he had started his training as a dragon slayer. It was kinda off and weird that this little puppy hated him for some reason. Subaru would be debating in his mind if this has something to do with that weird smell covering him from after that last time when he had just restarted the loop. Subaru though would put it aside for now, as he waves goodbye to the kids and heads back with Rem, not having noticed anyone particularly suspicious from the villagers. Subaru would have come up with another plan, deciding that he was going to see if maybe he had been touched by someone who could have been the shaman this time, thinking that maybe that poison from the first time when Ram had killed him could have actually potentially instead been a curse. Subaru would then again think about this before he just starts punching his head, thinking, this isn't getting me anywhere. I'll just go talk to Bayako. She'll probably know what to do anyway. Subaru walking into the Great Forbidden Library, opening it, Beatrice would look up from her book, noticing Subaru, and while seeing him, she would then notice that there was something on his hand. It looked like a bite of something. Anyway, Subaru would step forward and ask Beatrice if she has any more information about shamans, and coincidentally, she would, pointing at Subaru's hand saying that he's got a curse right there. Subaru looked down at his hand seeing the bite and wouldn't notice anything, thinking, huh? You're joking, right? As Subaru would then gesture at his hand once again. Subaru and Beatrice would have this little play go on for a while before Beatrice just tells him to accept it that he's been cursed. Subaru freaking out, wondering what he should do, as he's thinking about just eating the curse off his hand, wondering if he could even do that. Wondering if curses are even a part of shadow magic or dark magic. Beatrice would again be confused, not having seen Subaru actually eat magic before, so she'd say, Beatrice would have a total brain lapse, as she then says, yes, it'd be categorized under dark magic, but what is that? Subaru would start sucking on his hand as hard as he can, biting onto his hand and sucking and using his magic abilities as a dragon slayer, literally eating the curse off of his hand, and Beatrice would be amazed, watching the curse slowly vacuum out of his body, and he would be cured. Well, I guess it's close enough to shadow magic for me to consume it. That tastes kind of nasty though. Beatrice, being a great spirit who has lived almost 100 years or more, seeing this for the very first time would be dumbstruck. Never having seen any sort of divine protection that allowed someone to consume magic like it was a snack. That's a new one, she'd be thinking. This would actually put a different thought into her head, believing that this could mean that Subaru is actually perhaps the witch Sin Archbishop of Gluttony. The Sin Archbishop of Gluttony being known for being able to consume other types of magic, a rumor that had been going around Lagunica. This would actually put Beatrice on guard against Subaru, Subaru not understanding what's up, as he asks what's going on, asking if the curse is all gone. She nods saying it is, and then asks Subaru how he got that. Subaru put his hands behind his head saying, "Oh, you know, I just went down to the village to get some groceries with Rem," and Subaru would remember, wait a minute, that little girl, she did have a strange scent, kind of like... Subaru's eyes widen as he runs out of the room at full speed. Subaru would stop by Rem and Ram's room, telling them to stay in the mansion and guard Emillia, saying that he's going down to the village right now. Subaru knowing he can handle this by himself. Ram and Rem would be confused and also worried, as Subaru explains that there's going to be an attack on the village tonight. Ram and Rem would offer to come, but Subaru would hold his hand up saying he's got this, saying that if he doesn't return within an hour, the village is probably safe, or he's dead, so take that as you will. Subaru would run out of the building telling them to stay safe, and to tell Master Roswaal what's going on. Subaru would throw a black cloak over himself as he fades into the shadows and starts moving through his shadow speed towards the village, making it there in record time. Arriving at the village, he noticed on his way that some of the crystals that Emillia had filled with her mana, using her spirit arts to protect the village, had disappeared. Subaru would grit his teeth, moving even faster. As he arrives at the center of the village, Subaru would pop out of the shadows, scaring the villagers as they ask what's going on, pointing pitchforks at him. Subaru would hold his hands up as they realize who it is, saying, "It's Subaru." Subaru would answer asking where the kids are. The parents themselves beginning to realize, and they had already begun to realize, that they were missing, telling Subaru everything they had found out, that all the kids were gone, and they hadn't seen anyone, and there were some mob beasts outside, they could hear howling. Subaru would narrow his eyes saying he's gonna go get them back, as one of them would offer Subaru a sword. Subaru would turn around, covering his fist with shadows as he turns back towards the villagers, saying, "He's got this." "I'll be right back," Subaru would say. "Everyone stay inside the village, and if things get worse or they come in and I can't stop them, then run to the mansion. Master Roswaal and Lady Emillia will protect you there. Alright?" Everyone nodding as Subaru turns and runs away, his cloak falling behind him as he disappears into the shadows, faster than any beast. Subaru would close his eyes as he sniffs deeply, breathing in the forest air. Subaru being able to smell the people who have been dragged away, as he realizes that they were walking themselves, thinking they must have been hypnotized or put under some sort of curse. Subaru moving towards where his scent is taking him. While Subaru was going after the kids, Ram and Rem had come down to the village to see what Subaru was on about. The villagers explaining to the twins that Subaru had run off into the shadows saying he's going to go bring all their kids back. Ram would sigh thinking what an idiot, as she tells Rem to follow her close behind, using her divine protection to see through the minds of the animals in the forest. Ram would find where Subaru is. Subaru standing off against about 10 to 20 mob beasts, the two girls hurrying. Meanwhile, back at Subaru's perspective, we see him guarding the kids, his arm thrown back, telling them to stay behind him. Meili had already been figured out by Subaru and had been thrown away from the kids by Subaru. Meili grabbing her arm and saying that's not a way to treat a kid like her. Subaru grit his teeth as he uses shadow magic, creating a barrier around the kids, as he then tells her to fight with him and leave them out of this. The mobbies would charge forward, the dog-like beasts howling as they try to scratch and hurt Subaru. However, Subaru would be immune to these attacks, simply fading through their strikes as he walks towards Meili, covering his fist with shadows. The mob beasts, realizing that they can't damage him with their claws or teeth, will begin using magic and covering themselves as they attack Subaru. Subaru being forced to dodge their strikes, but still being far easier than he expected. Shadow Dragon's secret art. Yin's Howl. Subaru would spin, his right arm being covered with darkness as he slashes through the dogs, cutting off and decapitating them in a single blow, all of them falling to the ground and beginning to bleed onto the ground. The kids would scream, asking if Subaru's alright. Subaru would turn back as they see his eyes covered in darkness. Subaru would smirk, saying this is nothing. As he turns back to the mobbies who's about to bite him, Subaru's arm being covered in shadows would just take the bite, as it doesn't even affect him. Subaru with his bare fist would then punch the mobbies with full force, knocking it out as it falls unconscious. It's at this point that Subaru would decide to use that new skill Puck had showed him. Subaru covering his eyes, he uses Shamak, spreading the shadows out and depriving the senses of everything around him. Subaru, however, could see everything clearly. Subaru being a shadow dragon and all. Meili would turn to run, but a shadow dragon never lets its prey escape. The small puppy being in her hand, she'd drop it as it begins to grow into a massive size. Subaru realizing and seeing that this was the alpha of this pack of maw beasts. Subaru would think, she's gonna get away. As Subaru slams his fist into the ground, shadows expanding quickly across the floor of the forest, running up towards Emilla's feet and slashing at her ankle, cutting her tendons as she'd scream out as she falls to the ground, limping with one leg. Subaru would grit his teeth thinking that he missed, having been planning to take out both of her legs so she couldn't move or escape. Subaru would block the huge strike from the dog, as its paw would be about to crush Subaru. Subaru just blocking it with one hand, looking up towards the dog, the maw beast whimpering under Subaru's hard, cold stare, beginning to back off. It's at this point Subaru would sense something as he turns, seeing more maw beasts now crowding through the forest, Rem and Rom being chased by them from behind. Rem using her mace and Rom using her magic. Barasu, you idiot! What are you doing here? Subaru would tell him to dive to the ground, both girls doing so, as Subaru uses a shadow dragon roar, mincing all of the dogs that have been falling behind them as it gets slammed into trees and would be shredded. Subaru would turn back towards Emillia, telling them that she's the one who had brought these maw beasts here, explaining that Emilia's crystals had been taken out and he had saw it when he had been here with Rem the other day. Subaru would turn towards Rem, asking if she can take the kids and get back to the village. The little girl would turn, saying, "Wow, I really thought that the client was kidding when he said he needed 2 of us for you." Molly would turn smiling. She says, "Elsa!" Elsa Grandhair would appear, as Subaru would block the slash towards Rem's throat. Subaru would block the strike with his hand, catching the blade as blood would spurt down his hand. She'd be impressed, realizing that Subaru does have a weakness. Since she can't hit him with her blade, then I'll just kill everyone else while you watch, she'd say. Subaru's eyes would be filled with rage. He tells Rom to get out of there, saying he'll handle this. Rom would grab Subaru's hand, saying that she's going to help him, using magic as she blasts Elsa away with wind. Elsa and Melee getting ready for a 2v2 fight between them and Rom and Subaru. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed your new part 4, for What If Subaru Was a Shadow Dragon Slayer. If you guys want to see the next part, make sure to slap the like button, give that to 100 likes, and I'll start working on part 5 to get it out within the week. And also, comment down below what you thought of this part. I will have a few more videos coming out throughout the week. I've got some stuff scheduled. Warlock Naruto, Genshin Naruto, for those of you who follow the Naruto videos. And then I'll have Subaru Suikoden's Vessel next week for sure. Probably finishing up to the finale of Season 2 with that. As well as What If Asta was Melos' son, going into the second half of its story, going into the Dark Quadrant arc. So get caught up on the stories you guys want to follow, and I'll have more videos coming out for you very soon. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.